Okay, guys. Hi, I'm Brent Stafford, and this is RegWatch by regulatorwatch.com. In the rush to implement a nationwide flavor ban, Health Canada provided just one opportunity to hear from those most affected, consumers of nicotine vaping products. The chance arose during a concise 45-minute webinar held today on Zoom, featuring a fervent presentation by consumer vaping advocate and Rights for Vapers founder, Maria Papaioannoy-Duic. And Maria joins us today, as I got through the last name, and so does Marion, Burt, and Dave Ball, also consumer advocates for vaping here in Canada. How you all doing?
Just fine.
I just literally left it in that Zoom call today. I needed to go in a corner and recharge.
Yes. Well, Maria, let's jump into it. How do you think your presentation went?
I'm my most critical, but I was me. And I think there's always everybody giving you advice. And guys, the worst thing you can do is text or message someone while they're on a presentation and tell them what they're saying is wrong or give them more advice. However, I am proud of the time that is spent, the people that I connected with, and the advice that I took to be able to make it as inclusive. And that word I used to not like. Inclusive, what does that mean? But I literally worked being inclusive on this presentation. And I took everyone's thoughts, and everyone had a copy of it. Everybody knew what I was going to say. And I was so proud of it. I was truly proud.
So, Marion, what did you think?
I feel so blessed that we have someone like Maria speaking for us, because as Maria said, we, the consumers, are we're the ignored ones, we're the silent ones. We get along with our lives and we're happy that we no longer smoke, but nobody listens to us when we tell them. And Maria is so brave and so eloquent, and puts her heart on the line, and really expresses what we all feel. So I'm incredibly grateful.
Dave?
I mirror what was just said by Marion. I think Maria did a great job. She wears her heart on her sleeve. When she talks, she's talking from the heart, and she's talking from a position of knowledge that she gets from, well, everybody. We all fed into what she was saying, and she did a great job. It was wonderful to listen to.
Well, that's excellent. So we are going to play some clips from Maria's presentation. We're going to start, though, first, if I can get our gear working properly here, with a clip from, now, Maria, how do you pronounce Denis' last name?
Chouinard?
Chouinard? Yeah. I
Denis?
thought it was Denis Chouinard, who's retiring.
Who's retiring in May.
That's right.
He's
a director at Health Canada and
for a long time.
Yeah. So he's definitely
a classic director. I do have to say that I'm thinking of throwing him a retirement party on behalf of Canadians who vape and smoke. I'll keep you all updated on that.
So let's take a listen then to this first clip that we've got. And then after that, we're going to use a new system where we're going to be able to jump word from word using artificial intelligence and transcription tracking, blah, blah, blah. So hold on one second here. Okay. All right.
I'll just indicate why we're having this meeting today and why now. We have been asked to prepare for Minister Sachs, so the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, and also Associate Minister of Health, a regulator package on flavored vaping products for the spring. What the minister will decide after that will be up to the minister to decide. We only prepare the package and the minister will then decide. We've been asked also to go back to the main stakeholders who had expressed views 2.5 years ago in June 2021 on the proposal and validate if those views are still the same or if there are new ones. So just to revisit the proposal of June 2021 in what we call Canada Gazette Part 1. So the proposed regulations are pre-published, if you want, in Part 1. And we had two main vehicles there. One was in order to amend Schedules 2 and 3 of the Tobacco Act. And then we were proposing a new regulations on vaping flavors. So together, they form what we call a three-pronged approach. So we already have restrictions in Schedule 3 of the TVPA. We already have some some ingredients that are prohibited in Schedule 2. And we did not have existing regulations on sensory attributes, so that was the new part. But the first two were amended. And the result that was to be achieved is to basically allow only on the market tobacco flavors and mint menthol or combination of mint menthol flavors.
So only tobacco flavors. That is sounds appealing, doesn't it?
Nope.
Actually, not only tobacco flavors, but only tobacco flavors composed of 40 some odd ingredients, which a few of them can cause you cancer. Or if you're like, I mean, for me, I'm over 50, I'm not having kids, so it's not going to affect my fertility. But like, if for anybody under 50 could protect, it just blows my mind away.
Making any flavor, I mean, reducing the variety of flavors is just ridiculous to start with, but narrowing it to such an extent and to make it unpalatable even to smokers is totally insane. I don't know who put these proposals together. Somebody with no foot in reality at all.
I think someone would. Yeah, no, for me, it was like, did someone create a do not use list and mix it up?
No, I think when I said about the two flavors and the amount of flavorings that were allowed to be used in them, I've tried the compliant tobacco. It tastes terrible. It is not something that would entice anybody to quit smoking. And what I've said before is, if you have only two flavors, there's not a vape shop or a vape juice company that would survive.
Yeah.
The only companies that would survive with two flavors are big tobacco companies.
Yeah.
And the government is handing over the entire vape industry to the big tobacco companies.
Let's be clear, though. They're handing back the smoking industry to tobacco with this proposal. Yes. No one's going to want to vape those two things. And then they're handing back the smoking cessation. And I can never say that word, and I didn't say it on my presentation today, but they're handing over smoking cessation back to pharma, and everything is copacetic. Is that what we're doing? And then all of a sudden, they're going to be shocked that a group of people who created this industry, and I don't know how many times I have to say it, vaping was created by people who smoke for people who smoke. Full stop. Nothing. Tobacco came in 2018. They rode our fucking coattails.
They don't know the history. They don't realize anymore that in Canada, the vaping industry was small companies. It was people who stopped smoking by switching to vaping and started to become the juice manufacturers, the vape stores. They were the ones who started it. It wasn't until the government stepped in and started all the propaganda about kids and the fears of gateway effect. It wasn't until then, and they legalized it, and they opened the door to big tobacco and their products. So they created this. They were the ones, and the I call them the crass five, the NGOs. They were the ones who publicized all the bubblegum flavor, the popcorn, or candy corn or whatever. And they were talking about those as examples long after the TVPA made flavor names like that illegal. But they're still coming out with them.
They're still lying. They're still lying. Brent, do you even want to be part of this conversation? Because the three of us are good over here.
Oh, I'm fully all good with you guys going on. Thank you for the moment. Then I would like to play the first clip of you presenting on behalf of the Canadian vaping industry. They were pretty good to call out that they've had meetings with CVA and with VITA. I think with the C-Store Association and with the nonprofit public health groups. The Classic Five. I'm not, until you start saying it though, I'm not going to start using that. It's only after we're done. I've got choice words about those groups and none of them I could say on air. How dare they? How dare they? But on that note, here's the first clip.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schwenar. And I have more to add. I don't have a PowerPoint, but I will begin with my words. We still stand behind many of those comments and much more confident behind them. My name is Maria Papaioannoy-Duic. I'm the spokesperson for Rights for Vapers. First, thank you for including us, our movement, in this process. I would like for it to be noted that this is not a fully inclusive process, as over 20,000 individual submissions were made opposing flavor bans in 2021, and not a single private person who vapes or an allied individual who supports access to vaping products, flavors for vaping products, has been asked or invited to give their updated feedback. These are the most important voices for this discussion, not anti-tobacco and anti-vaping lobbyists who have no experience with smoking, vaping, or our cessation. I feel the tremendous pressure to speak on behalf of all Canadians who currently vape and who are concerned about continued access to the product that has saved their lives, and for the 5 million Canadians who still smoke. Rights for Vapers is a movement. Our goal is to educate and empower Canadians who smoke and vape, to help them engage confidently with government and officials, to share their stories and speak up and out about how vaping has helped them stop smoking, to help shape fair and equitable regulations. Our goal is to...
So we'll play more in a sec. I'd like to just stop and get everybody a chance to just kind of start to weigh in on Maria's tone. I mean, it was strong, definitely strong, but you know, it's not like you were smacking him around yet.
Did I ever smack anybody around? I was just being honest.
Well, I think you got a shot or two in there, but I'm not gonna bury or let that out right at the moment. So,
okay.
You guys, so now that we get into this a little bit, share with me a little bit more about what you thought about the presentation.
I just want to say one thing. In fairness, I believe, Dave and I are members of a small group of Canadian consumers, and we were asked to form, I can't read it, I haven't got my glasses on, the Vapers for Smoke-Free Canada. It was Sonia Johnson from Health Canada. She's the Director General of Tobacco and Vaping Control. And a couple of years ago, she asked us to form this informal group. We're not an official body, but we do meet by Zoom occasionally, and she asks us questions and we tell her our concerns. And we did have a meeting about a week ago in which we kind of blasted her because of this. We told her how we felt about this revived, resurrected, exhumed flavor ban. So she got some input, but it was not official, such as this was.
Well,
It should have been. Like, I'll be honest, it should have been. And when everybody found out about this, like, you know, I read the emails, I read the hurt, and I felt the same way. Why is Marion not invited? Why is Janine not invited? Why is Dave not invited?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I can't give up an opportunity to speak, but what I can do is create it inclusive as possible by acknowledging the fact that I needed to tell them that this is not the only voice, and it is a big responsibility because they're asking, you know, they had they had 5 people representing NGOs, they had 2 people representing vape shop, and the largest group of people who would be the most affected by these regulations had a movement come in, which says a lot for what we've done as Rights for Vapers and the value and respect, and I will never give that up. But the reason this happens is because we do listen to consumers.
That's right, Maria. And that's why I liked the start of your presentation there, because you made it very clear that the people who are most involved are being given the least amount of hearing. You know, as always, you know, we're being ignored. I don't understand what's going on here. I don't know if this is kind of like a trial balloon to see how far they can go. I mean, I sent Sonia an email when I read it and told her that we were absolutely gobsmacked, because that was the only word. You know.
So what's astonishing here, and this goes, I'll take us back to 2016 with RegWatch's our first interview with the Tobacco Control Directorate. And, you know, we were told clearly that they take their marching orders from the politicians. And I was flummoxed about that because, like, aren't you, like Health Canada, aren't you supposed to be representing science? And aren't you at least supposed to be pushing back when the politicians go all wonky? And the answer to that was, well, they give us our marching orders. Same message came again in 2019 when we sat down with James Van Loon. And what I'm seeing here is exactly that. I think Health Canada is totally pinched here. This is completely a political move by a party who's staring down an election soon where it's going to get devastated. I mean, at least if you believe liberal voters and how they're responding in polls and other surveys, the fact of the matter is that they're flailing about. And so no easier mark is there out there than vaping.
Or actually than someone who smoked. We're still, like, you know, and in my heart of heart, and I think this is why all this has affected me so much, I do believe we have, and I've just done a bunch of presentations on this, we have amplifiers within Health Canada who understand and hear what we are saying and turning up the volume on what Marion's saying, what Dave's saying, and being able to turn up that volume. And we have these little wins. But I think right now is the other side have a very, very important amplifier, and that's Minister Holland.
Yeah. Now, what do we know about, you know, you brought up a little bit about Minister Holland in the presentation lightly. But the fact is that he made his bones at Heart and Stroke.
It's not even about the money. Let's take out the money. It's bigger than the money. If you read an article that he did with the Canadian Press on August 8th, 2023, he said he was devastated. He was at the end of his rope. And I don't want to go further because you can read the story, just Google him. And it was only when no one wanted to hire him when he lost that election. He lost everything it was about him in that election in 2011, and no one wanted to hire him. And he had trouble in his marriage with his kids. And he talks about this, and he talks about men's mental health, which is something we need to talk more about. And it was the Heart and Stroke Foundation that believed in him. and gave him a job. So as someone who's living in recovery, you remember the people when you were at your bottom, and you are forever grateful for them. But I just don't understand. And I do believe that relationship is playing out right now, and we are being victimized. And I think they're taking advantage of that, and shame on them, because the classic five have no fucking, they have no morals, no values. They will do anything to get their way. This is not about people smoking. This is not about people vaping. It's about them winning. And their biggest win is against big tobacco. And we are its casualties. And they are using, and I'm saying this right out, they are using Minister Holland, his state of mind of when they gave him an opportunity, and pulling on that. And as the Minister of Health, he should be aware of that, because the rest of us see that. I'm not going to give the blame to him, because it's these people who have the history of being shady, not us. Sorry, that's my little thing. That's a big one for me.
No, that's okay. I think it's important. Like, we just had David Sweener on the show. We released the episode earlier this week and called out the group because just several weeks ago, they took out a full page ad in the Hill Times in Ottawa, calling on the health minister to do exactly this. And the timing, of course, is clear. COP ended. The classic five nonprofit body orgs, right? Spend a bunch of money on a full page ad in Ottawa, in the paper of record in Ottawa, to shame and embarrass the minister. And he turns around and calls up Health Canada and says, I want to get these regulations back on the table, fire it back up. We're in that process.
Okay, first of all, can we just make a point, is that they weren't even creative enough to create their own ad. They actually plagiarized the same marketing from COP where the kids did. They actually stole a bunch of kids' COPs ideas from COP FCT, because they used the big hook angle, and they plagiarized it. Like, these poor kids, they worked so hard, and now these mean people are taking it to play upon a man's mental health, like to take advantage of it. Like, they have no scruples, no morals, no values. They will do whatever it takes. And this, at this point, has nothing to do with vaping, has nothing to do with smoking. They want big tobacco. They have been fighting to force the government to give to take money from big tobacco to give to them to run their organizations. If anybody has reason to want cigarette sales to stay consistent, it is the classic five.
And how many lobbyists you mentioned, Maria, you examined how many visits lobbyists from the five were active in Ottawa over the last
goodness. I had a stack this big that I printed off for the last 6 months of lobbying from just the Cancer Society. And the only reason I went down that rabbit hole was because they visited my MP, Philip Lawrence. And I thought, oh my goodness, what are they talking to him about? Probably vaping. Again, my ego. I thought, the only reason that they're just out to get me. But I mean, it was for other reasons. However, I have a great member of parliament who will talk to me, but they've spent hours and hours and millions of dollars, and they want more money from big tobacco to be able to continue this. So who benefits if people go back to smoking? And God damn it, I will buy my stuff from China again before I give a cigarette company another dollar to be able to give it to them.
And I'll think twice about buying daffodils in the next campaign.
Like, really, my dad just got diagnosed with cancer this year. And you know what? It took us so long to get that diagnosis. He almost died because everybody focused that he smoked in 1985. Hey,
yeah,
classic five, work on deprogramming people with your negative stigmatization about people who smoke. Because if they just took that, whatever, that ultrasound machine and went from his lungs and moved up to his neck, they would have saw that golf-sized tumor suffocating him 10 days earlier. Anyway, sorry, guys. I'm just like,
Well,
So-
you know what bothers me?
Go ahead,
What bothers me is those groups, they rely on hundreds of thousands of volunteers, and they provide really great services to people who are suffering from various diseases. And yes, the guys at the top, the bean counters and the politicians at the top, they are betraying every one of those volunteers who dedicate hours and hours of time. And I wish those volunteers were aware of what's happening.
oh, like the volunteer that came out here to make that presentation back in like 2016. Radon. I live in the area where radon happens. They literally did a presentation on radon. They started talking about radon, then in the middle started talking about electronic cigarettes, and then started talking about radon again. And every newspaper in the area wrote that electronic cigarettes produce radon. I actually emailed, I got a meeting with the Cancer Society because I was so mad. Again, I will pick up the phone. And I just said, they're like, but that's not what our presentation was supposed to say. I said, look, you're either stupid or you're very smart. Let's just pretend you're very smart, because every single media story said electronic cigarettes produce radon. Are you that dumb to put an electronic cigarette presentation and sandwiched in between a radon presentation and expect a different result? They are smart, and the people, and I felt bad for this woman because I had to go after the volunteer and have to explain to council that e-cigarettes do not produce radon.
Well, look, it'd be nice if cancer was out there saying, like, drawing direct conclusions that, you know, vaping causes cancer. They don't even get close to that. They need to use radon and all these weird angles to get at it, but they don't. So Canadian Cancer Society won't even say that vaping causes cancer because they know it doesn't. So I wish that a single reporter in this country, when they're listening to Rob Cunningham going nah, 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 about vaping, they'd ask him, so does vaping cause cancer? And put that on the air. I'd like to see CBC, CTV, Global. I'd like to see all of them ask Rob Cunningham, does vaping cause cancer?
Yeah.
And put the answer on the air.
That's not going
I
to
haven't
happen.
seen it.
Well, it's my challenge to every single reporter out there. You are a lesser professional if you don't ask Canadian Cancer Society when they're advocating against vaping, does it cause cancer? All right, so we got another.
Okay, sorry.
We have another. No, it's all good, guys. It's all good. We're loosey-goosey today. It's Friday afternoon. That's why I booked it right the way that I did. So I've got a couple of good chunks of Maria here, and they're juicy. So here we go.
Every presentation that we have given since making our submission in 2021 has been consistent. Unfettered access to flavors matter. A flavor ban is not a magic bullet that will solve the problems that are viciously blasted through misleading headlines by what I call the classic 5 tobacco control organizations in Canada: Heart and Stroke, Cancer Society, ASH, Coalition de Tabac, and Physicians for a Smoke-Free Canada. Youth vaping rates will not go down. More adults will return to smoking, and we will have a less safe product on the market. We also
Johnson from Health Canada arranged for several of us from our little group to have a round table with Carolyn Bennett, who was the Minister of Health and Addictions at that time. And I think there were 5 of us there. And we started by giving our smoking to vaping history, very short. And Carolyn Bennett through the meeting said she was so surprised by our narratives, and she said she would love to see us on the national, because it profoundly shook her, you know. And so Health Canada said, well, we're going to try that. And so so they hired some AB team, and we had to fill in all kinds of forms, and then they were going to create videos of us, and then it was videos of all the different ways of smoking cessation. And then most of us didn't hear from the people. One did, and had about 3 interviews, and then was told, oh, she was not part of the group. And then videos did appear on the Health Canada website. One for Nicorette, one for gum, one for Champix, but not one for vaping. So I suspect that this whole project was blocked at some point by somebody, because to publish that would really take a step forward in accepting vaping, as you know, as a route away from cigarettes. So, you know, I don't know who it was, but
we were almost there.
We were. I even got my hair cut for that, you know. Yeah.
Marion colored her hair jet black just for the event.
Hmm?
Didn't you?
Yeah, I always do. I like to look neat.
Yeah, I took care of my hair too.
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, I wish I understood, you know, what the blocking point is, because, you know, a lot of all this I put down, as I've said to politicians who don't know what they're talking about, and so get information from an aide. They have to make a speech on a topic, and they tell an aide to find something, and the aide Googles it and comes up with a headline from 2015 about you know, rats dying from nicotine, and so the so the politician comes out with that in his speech. Like, for instance, our Ontario's finance minister, to justify this new tax, said that a recent study shows that kids who vape are 6 times more likely to go on to smoke. And I thought that's weird. So I went to Google search for vape 6 times smoke, and I found a study from 2016, and it was one of those classic ones that asked kids who vape if they ever intended to smoke, and they had, you know, multiple choice, and anything other than definitely not was a yes. I mean, but this politician just accepted that as gospel and broadcast it out to the world as the justification for this horrendous tax.
Because
my
kids
goodness.
are so good at predicting the future. They know exactly what they're going to be doing.
Yeah, now that was in Ontario's fall economic statement.
Yeah.
And it actually said in there, I believe, that it was Canadian Cancer that provided that data.
Oh, my favorite part of that, sorry guys, I know we're talking about something else, but my favorite part of me speaking at the ministry at those consultations was when one of the MPPs asked me why I don't talk to the Heart and Stroke Foundation. And I'm like, can you get me a meeting? They don't talk to me. And then I just at that point lost it. I said, they don't talk to me. You over there, NDPs, you have a policy not to talk to anybody about vaping right across the board, both on the provincial and the federal level. So who's going to talk to me? I'm here now to talk to you.
So on that note, guys, I've just quickly moved those bytes over to the switcher. So
Okay.
I can't say for sure it's going to work, but the tech issues are always around. So let's try that again, because I think that what you had to say here earlier today at the Health Canada webinar is really important. So here we go.
Thank you.
Sound.
Yeah, it's not working. Something's going on. All
Well,
right.
we can read the transcript. We can just.
No, yeah, that's okay. I won't try to do it anymore. That's
Okay.
That's the last try, the last kick at the cat. So yeah, my editing gear crashed 4 times this morning from between when I finished grabbing the webinar. So it could be numerous things. So I think we should just bin it and just move on. So
I agree.
So on that note, I mean, so a couple of things that you were making, points that you were making that I wanted to make sure we hit. We've done the classic 5. The other one that was really important was your comments that you made about your disappointment with Health Canada and the fact that they didn't stand up for THR at COP10, which was the Conference of the Parties, part of our I want to say some really bad things. Anyhow, it's the WHO and the FCTC, the Conference of the Parties that was in Panama. Health Canada didn't make a peep.
Well, they did make a peep a little bit, but they didn't talk about what was important. They were they were priding themselves on the stigmatizing messages on cigarettes, on individual cigarettes, which I think would have, why not talk to people about how they can quit? Why do we need to continue to shame people in 2024? And I'll be honest with you, I thought that was just a way for Bennett to get Rob to shut up. I mean, for you guys, Carolyn Bennett, the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions at the time who passed that, I thought it was sort of like a little gift to Rob Cunningham, who is from Cancer Society, because I believe he's been trying to have this, like, when you do your research on these people, you see what they advocate for. This has been his dream for years, for people to smoke cigarettes and feel shame. And he got his wish. And I think it kind of backfired on him. However, that was one of the main things they talked about. And I don't understand, because the Health Canada that we see and then that we hear about currently is not the same that when the regulations come out. So, Brent, it's true. It's based on what the politicians want. And currently the liberal politicians want to shame people who smoke. And they're comfortable with that. I mean, those warnings like may cause impotency. Why didn't you just write, we'll make your dick limp? Like, why not just get to the point? Are we not past this? You guys are trying to say stuff that everybody knows. And if you really think that someone is going to stop smoking because of a message on the cigarette, you are so out of touch with reality. You have not spoken to someone that smokes in a very long time, and you are living in your silo. Get out of it, and just get out of it. Get over it. Stop being who you are. Stop being who you think you need to be, and be who you are, because every human being has compassion. They have understanding, and for some goddamn reason, the Classic 5 have chosen to suppress that and take it away and be cruel individuals who get paid a lot of money to be assholes to Canadians.
That sums it up.
Yep. Do you have time for one more about COP? What
Yes.
bothered me was Sonia made the Canadian delegation's presentation, and it was almost identical to one that she made in Washington at a conference last spring, a year ago. In that presentation, she was talking about the things that Canada has done, for smoking cessation, the writing on the cigarettes and everything. But she also mentioned reaching out to consumers. And I emailed her about it, because I thought that was great. And she wrote back and she said that people had come up to her afterwards saying, what a great idea, But what was different in the speech that she made at COP was there's no mention of consumers at all. So
Because
somebody
what?
is.
Because this is what would have happened, is Rob Cunningham was writing, what's that journal that was called during COP? That is funded. He was there by a Canadian funded organization outside of Cancer Society. And he was handing out the Lotus and the Dirty Ashtray Award. The Dirty Ashtray Award. Can we get any more stigmatizing and shame and try to shame people? Because how many times have you heard when you were a teenager who wants to kiss a dirty ashtray? That is weaponized against people who smoke, the smelling, all that stuff. But she would have been nominated and won a Dirty Ashtray Award.
Yeah, probably.
And let's be honest, this is what he did. He sat in COP and wrote rude, awful things about people. There he is, the Global Alliance for Tobacco Control, which is funded by the Government of Canada. And the Government of Canada is okay with them going out to this organization and stigmatizing smokers. Sorry, I hate using that word. People who smoke. Guys, this is deeper than we know. And we think that we're getting mad at government. Our government officials are being controlled, especially on this file, are being manipulated, are being bullied, and they are probably being bullied worse than we are. And now, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, it's so sad.
Well, I'm gonna give you the next piece here. I mean, I want to keep your blood red here, okay? So another thing that you mentioned in your presentation today, I've got shots of it right now, and it's this. Ta-da! What a wonderful thing this was.
Yeah.
This
the cancer flavored vape
by a cancer society. And
actually, the health minister. It was the health minister of Spain.
Yes, but it was funded by the Cancer Society of Spain. He was so proud that they were weaponizing cancer. And the thing is that advocates in those rooms took pictures of that and then tagged tobacco harm reduction advocates with messages of, I have a gift for you.
Unbelievable.
Who wishes? What cruelty, what brainwash. This is a cult. Like, I'm watching a lot of cult stuff right now, but this is a cult. They are brainwashing people. I'm not brainwashing. You know what? You want to quit smoking? Do it your way. Do it your way, and I'm going to applaud you. I owned a shop for 10 years, and I never shamed a single person who walked into my shop that came in and said, I started smoking again. And you know what I said? That's okay. That's part of your journey. What do you want to do now? And if you need to dual use, that's okay too. But here we have people who are claiming that they want to do the right thing for everyone but people who smoke or vape. Think about that. How do you segregate a population based on an addiction? How does a country have some of the most incredible language about stigmatization for drug use? And drug use, you say the word addiction, it's drug use. Read what Health Canada says, and I think I quoted from it, but you don't say shameful things. But why are you not standing up and calling out shameful, actually awful, disgusting behavior in an event that you have paid over $300,000 to attend? They paid over $300,000. They paid their bill. I went and saw the bill list. Like, they paid their bill. Almost all of COP was covered by 5 countries. China still owes $1.5 million. I'm sure Spain owes a bunch of money too. You know what? We talk about where does the money come from because we're going on this side. Well, you know what, Health Canada, you paid a lot of money to be there. You should be able to do what you think. And what people don't know is as Denis is retiring, he is one of the founders of FCTC. One of the founders, because guys, I do a lot of research on the people who are against us.
Yes, you do.
No more. And there is an entire blog dedicated to him and about the tobacco debate. And if you go on there, it's written by Cynthia Collard, and good for her for continuing this blog for 17 years. And she praises and loves and gushes. I thought they were dating when I read what she wrote about him. But he spoke at the tobacco trials. He has history that is much deeper than anyone. But he was one of the founders of FCTC. He was at the first one.
Well,
He
the
should
first
know better.
meetings were in Vancouver, I think, weren't they?
I
It was,
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, they
Was-
were. Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is a Canadian project. The global war on nicotine is centered in Canada, and it's not recently. We're talking from the start.
But we also have David Sweener was part of that.
Yeah. Well, and David
But
David was involved much earlier than
Much
FCTC.
earlier, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In the
and he-
80s he was involved.
Yes, he was part of the class. At one point we could have been talking about the Classic 7, but he stayed true to people quitting smoking. He understood that this was about people smoking and people not smoking. And when he sees harm reduction, he knew. And that's when you see a lot of these classic members, but I think he's a progressive classic. We'll call him a PC, a progressive classic member. He moved forward because he understood that. And he didn't have hate in his heart. He knew who he was doing this for. These people have hate in their heart because they hate tobacco. Goodness, the same people in tobacco aren't even there anymore. They've moved on.
They don't hate tobacco, Maria. They used to hate tobacco, but then they said, oh no, we hate nicotine. They changed it. They moved the goalpost.
Well, yeah, as David Sweener said, dragon fighters have to have a dragon to fight. And if smoking is going to disappear, as it could, if vaping was allowed to continue, then they would lose their dragon. So they have to change the goal, they have to change the target. And that's all it is. Their jobs rely on it.
And sadly, the funny thing is, and this is the part that I think that really bothers them the most, that they've never come up against a Dave, a Marion, or a Maria. They're used to people in suits, and they're easy target. People who smoked, they were easy to be able to pick them off. But now you have people like us who don't understand the rules. There was no PowerPoint in my presentation. I've never spoken in a way that wasn't authentic to who I was. I don't need to wear a suit. And I'll never forget the first time I went into a meeting when I was a board member of CVA, and there was who was that guy that was there? The guy. What was his name again? Mark Keeley. Sorry, I'm going to say this is the thing, is that I went into a meeting to stop vape because they wanted to stop vaping in Ontario. And when we got out of that meeting, the three gentlemen that I was in there with, and Mark Keeley, they told me, you were too emotional. And then I walked away because no one tells me how to speak.
So, okay, I want to make sure that we stay focused here because obviously, I mean, I've got 9 years of coverage, so there's a lot to talk about. So, all right. So for those that are watching or see this, rebroadcast out on Facebook and YouTube and stuff, which will do that. I want to let everybody know that the entire Health Canada webinar that it was basically Maria's presentation. That was the whole thing. But there's some stuff that's worth seeing if you haven't had a chance to listen to Sonia Johnson or Denis. You'll be able to get a chance to hear that. We'll also be releasing just your part of the presentation. I'll share, you can have that to push that around. So I'll probably isolate that out too as well on our site. So that'll be up here shortly, either by the end of tonight or first thing for tomorrow. So it's important to know that you can watch the entire thing, see that on RegWatch, on our website, or on YouTube, or on Twitter, X. It'll be there. So let me ask you guys kind of a wrap-up question, which I know is not really a wrap-up, but let me say first is that by attacking flavors, they devastate the industry. And if they kill the industry, they remove a lot of the ability for this industry and individual consumers and so forth to actually fight effectively. If we were not able to win this thing with a vibrant industry across all provinces, and now we're hobbled with the loss of Quebec, huge taxes, the media is not on our side. If they do a nationwide flavor ban, it destroys the industry, period. And that, I think, is the real value for the Classic 5, because it removes the ability for really a fight to have happen. Now, could be 40 years from now, but it'll be an industry that has to restart in the ashes of a black market. I mean, it's just a nightmare. So let me ask you, is this going to happen, this flavor ban?
Hopefully not on RegWatch.
You know what, guys? If we keep doing what we're doing, if we keep thinking well, they taxed, they're not going to do a flavor ban, that's not right. Because that is the worst thinking, because the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Health don't talk. We have our tax. We have nothing left to trade off. We've traded it all off. We've traded nicotine strengths off. We've traded it all off. If we do not speak up collectively, if not every shop believes and hopes for their customers and remembers why they opened that shop, if we don't all stand up together and work collectively, we need to use our shops as newspaper stands. Have the information there. Let people know that this is happening. Here's what you can do. And, at one point during my advocacy, people were like, well, we don't want you to keep their emails. I don't need someone's emails. I'm not opening up some kind of world global distribution. Let your customers know the information that what's going on. We're going to get a website up. But right now, email Minister Sack, let them know, even if it don't touch my flavors. We are getting a website up. We're trying to figure out how to get postcards out, because those seem to be effective. The consumers need to know that their voice matters, and it is the consumer's voice that needs to populate both Minister Holland and Minister Sack's offices. And that could be with phone calls, but emails and those postcards are so effective. So we're going to figure it out, but be there, because we can buy our vapes anywhere, but we can't get community anywhere. And just remember that, in the sake of trying to be like big tobacco, being professional and all fancy, you've lost the one thing that made you different from them, and that's community. So I know I'm going to get hate for this, but whatever. It's the truth. Be there for your consumers, empower them.
So,
because we are going to get a flavor ban if we don't stand up.
Well, this thing is a mad dash to a flavor ban. There's no doubt. Let me just point out that the one thing that I've not seen yet tried, it's the logical extension to "we vape, we vote." Okay, that's okay as a message, but the real message is flavor ban, we won't vote for you.
Yes.
And politicians.
That's very, yeah.
Yeah. If they got thousands and thousands of calls and direct messages that said, we've had it. I voted Liberal all my life, but I'm not going to vote Liberal again. You hypocrites. You make cannabis legal.
Yeah.
It's filled with
that's the thing. That's the thing, because one of the effects of all the TVPA and all the all the changes that have happened since 2018 is that sense of community among vapers and the communication between vapers. You know, I would go into a vape shop and I'd sit down at the sampling table and I would have a chat with people, and the owner would come over and we'd talk. And there was a lot of communication between vapers, but then we got all the regulations and you can't vape in stores, and windows are going to be blocked off. And so consumers are now isolated. We used to have juice jams where all the juice manufacturers would get together and vapers would come and meet them and we'd talk, and it was a social thing and it was wonderful. But that's all stopped. The whole social part of it has stopped. So yeah, somehow we've got to find a way of, marshaling the troops, the consumers. And yes, that has to be, Maria's right, it has to be the vape stores. When the first proposal for a flavor ban came out, I started mixing my own e-liquid, and I did it really regretfully, because I feel I owe so much to the vape store, so I feel really guilty about it. But I've started buying some on because it gives me a chance to talk to them and tell them that vaping needs their support and needs their commitment and needs their imagination and their effort. So I'll continue that.
Just be a place of information. Just be sorry, Dave, I talk a lot. We already know that about me. I'm giving you the floor now.
Last word for you, Dave.
Well, one of the things that gets me is a lot of the vape shops have become glorified convenience stores. People walk in, they get their stuff, they walk out. And especially now with bans on open systems, we have the childproof container bans and all that stuff. So people aren't doing a lot of the stuff that built the industry. And the vape shops, as much as they want to make money, are getting in the products that they think customers want. They want something quick and convenient. So they're not talking to people as much as they did. They can't say, well, you can start at this level of nicotine and work your way down, because you can't. With disposables or prepackaged pods, you got a choice: high nicotine or no nicotine.
Yeah.
There's no way to graduate yourself down. And that's one of the things we've lost in vape shops, is people in vape shops that actually talk to the people that come in and help them to quit smoking. Now they became here it is, see ya, thanks for the money. And the vape shops have to become vape shops again, not convenience.
Exactly.
And we don't want money. You know what? Advocacy doesn't take money. What we need is some space, and we need your belief. Don't minimize this. Be honest, be truthful. This is going to happen. Sonia, at the end of her presentation, made it very clear exactly that this was sent. Trust me, I tried to figure out every legal loophole. I called the Library of Parliament to ask them if they ever heard of this. Then I spoke to this wonderful woman at the Canada Gazette. Usually it's only a year between CG1 and CG2. This is an anomaly. This length of time is an anomaly. So there is something bigger than us, however, bigger than us pushing. But what we do have is 1.8 million Canadians who vape. And if we can get to a third of them, we're changing. We're moving this election. We're changing the course of this government. And we're changing things. But you have to believe in yourself.
Well,
we also need some government official, some party, to actually stand up and say that they're for flavors, because we don't have any of those right now.
I think all that's really nice, guys, but you got to somehow get the message across to the politicians that they won't get reelected. How do you do that? I don't know. It's the only thing that they respond to. They respond to moral panics only because they believe that their response will get them reelected.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome, folks. Well, thank you very much for your time, and thank you, everyone, for your time today. This was a real quick episode that we threw together. Please look for the postings of the actual webinar up on our channels. And before you head off, please like us on Facebook, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter X. I'm Brent Stafford. Thank you for joining us.